got the XBT USD chart pulled up. Got a few things drawn on here already. Welcome to the stream if you haven't been here before. And if you have, well, I guess you're okay too. Let's see. So I got the weekly pulled up right now. The actual horizontals though that I have on here, I'll explain to you. So purple, these are yearly. So this was the yearly open for this year. This was the yearly open for last year, the top purple line up here. You know, and those are just nice to kind of be aware of. They, you know, have very little bearing on short-term decision making, but they're good to be aware of. Just kind of know when price is near one of those levels. Same thing with monthly. So the white line that I have here, this is actually the previous monthly close / current monthly open. That's this white line right here. So you can see that's at 85.46 or thereabouts. And it's interesting to see the weekly levels haven't really interacted with that level much. Going to be interested to see the daily levels here in a second, though. That'll be interesting to me. And again, monthly level, not necessarily super useful for any sort of decision making, but just good to be aware of. The place where decision-making levels become more important for me starts on the weekly and then is lower from there depending on what kind of trade I'm doing or what the purpose of my analysis is. If I'm day trading, the weekly level doesn't really matter much, obviously. But, you know, if you're just joining the stream, my hope is not to tell you where exactly to buy anything or sell anything. I have no intention to do that. I am not your financial advisor. You do not pay me to manage your money. So there's that. Now, what I can do is just kind of share what I look at, you know, the decisions that I make along the way and some of the things I find important. Maybe laugh, maybe tell some jokes, who knows. We'll have some fun, we'll look at some coins, some markets, things like that. And just want to grow the channel and help people kind of learn a little bit more. I am working on some educational videos. I do like some of the stuff that's out there. Crypto Cred has some nice stuff. And of course, Crypto Core also has some great things about indicators and stuff like that, and just general markets. But I do feel that there are a lot of things that are not out there, or there's just a lot of kind of shitty videos, or videos that are geared specifically towards FX markets or things like that, that are not very useful for crypto specifically. So trying to do some things that are useful for all markets and some crypto markets specifically. Those educational videos, though, are not going to be live streams. I'll record those and post them in the channel when they're finished. Just writing up the first one right now, and that one will be on risk management specifically because I do think it's the first thing you should learn when you are learning trading, or even if you've been trading for a while. It's good to come back and look at risk management techniques, see if there's anything new, or if the tried and true things, you know, could work for you, work better for you if you've gotten away from them and are taking larger risks or things like that. So more on that at some point. I will try and pay attention to the YouTube channel itself. If you want to post some questions in there, feel free. I'll look at the Discord as well. If you're not in the Discord, it's in the, well, it's in my, I guess it's not in the YouTube channel description, so you're out of luck there. It's on the Twitter in the profile, I believe. All right, so looking at Bitcoin right now. Haven't looked at this actually in a few days. I've had some family in town, been doing that stuff, so I've only had long-term positions open. And let me know if the music's too loud or if talking's too loud or anything. Like I said, I am setting up this channel, so still working out some of the kinks and things like that. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. I'll be doing these regularly. Goal is to be doing it once a day, but at least it will be a few times a week for sure. And if you do have coin requests, I posted about it on Twitter. I'll actually pop a link in the YouTube channel so you can add those to the Twitter post. A little bit of shameless marketing there for the channel itself via the Twitter post. But it helps, get people in here, get people involved. We can get more perspectives, things like that. And whether people know what they're doing or not, it's still useful to see what people think and say, especially because we will have a lot of newer people entering the crypto space, which, is often known as dumb money. But dumb money is essential for any market, and it's not necessarily a value judgment against the person themselves. I actually highly encourage you to be less judgmental of new people in any space, because you need new people always in any space, and especially financial spaces. Long term, that's the way they work. The people who have been there for a while sell to the people that are new, and the people that are new hope the price continues to go up. So far throughout history, that's worked pretty well in markets. All right, so looking at Bitcoin here, I did post the Twitter post in the YouTube chat, so you've got that over there. All right. So once again, just as a reminder, if you're just joining us, purple is yearly levels, white is monthly, orange is weekly levels. The yearly level's not the most important thing for decision making, nor is the monthly. The weekly level, though, I do like to pay attention to, and I like that I'm seeing a lot more people on Twitter that are doing crypto or paying attention to the weekly level. It's something that actually a lot of people don't pay attention to. A lot of people start at the daily level in general, in all markets. So you have some advantage just by even paying attention to the weekly level and what certain indicators are doing on that time frame. Something that's great that I see here is that we finally posted a new higher low on a down week. And that's kind of right here at about 75.55 on the BitMEX exchange. I like charting BitMEX because it is a high liquidity exchange, and it's where a lot of larger accounts tend to do a lot of work there. It's also good to look at the actual spot exchanges, though. Bitstamp, Bitfinex to some extent too, Coinbase, things like that. Pretty much wherever the most volume of actual money is being traded. So, it's good to just kind of compare and see if there are big differences at any point between some of those exchanges. For the most part, though, they do tend to move pretty well together. So we have this new higher low. I don't count any green week as being a higher low, just for my own perspective. So before this, the last higher low was 49.65 there. Okay, somebody said, I cannot hear you. Great. So I'll turn up the volume a little bit. Let's see here. Give me just 1 second. Turn up the input volume a little bit there. Let's see if we can get that fixed. Okay, and also turn up just the streaming volume, I think, here. Let's see, this is the, oh, I see. Let's just remove that. Yeah, okay. And we'll turn this up. There we go. Let me know if there's any issues, like can't hear me, things like that. Obviously, I've got this frame rate issue on the stream itself. Still trying to figure that out. So if anybody knows how to fix that, The computer that I'm streaming from is a Mac computer, not a Windows computer. Just prefer to use this computer for the streaming if I can. All right, so back to the Bitcoin chart here. Oh, that's not the Bitcoin chart. All right, so we're looking at this. Like I was saying, with any month where I actually have, where the price is going to close higher than the open, or rather any week where the price is going to close higher than the open, I don't really count even a down wick during that week as a new higher low. You can, it depends on what you're doing and what your style is, and there's lots of different styles, and not necessarily any one right answer. There's lots of wrong answers though. Wrong answers are anything where you're losing money consistently. It's one of the great things about trading. It's a very immediate feedback. So if you're terrible and you're losing money, well, there's a problem. You should probably look into fixing it. It's not the market. It's not the coin. It's not manipulation, I promise you. It's you. So get used to that. So the first actual higher low before this 2 weeks ago now was this red candle, in my opinion. And it's blue on my chart just because of a system I'm using that helps me avoid trading when it's not a good idea to do so. And I'll explain that a little bit more at some point. Now, so this was the previous higher low. So in my opinion, our new higher low is right there. 74, I can zoom in here a little bit on this. 74.40-ish. We'll look at that on the daily just to see a little bit more on that. But that's the higher low. So we drop below that, and it means that we're going for a new lower low overall in the weekly structure. And at that point, this would be the level now where I would want to be out of all long positions if we drop below that. And I would wait for the market to kind of show me that it's going to bounce. I would expect it to bounce somewhere between these EMAs. These are pretty standard market EMAs that I use in all markets. And it's not something, that's unique to me. Lots of people use it, especially in stocks, futures, commodities, things like that. So they do tend to be high value levels where price will return to and bounce from, whether price is going up or down, as you can see from some of this in the past. And these are weekly, so they're very long term. For example, this is not the best chart because it is BitMEX, but if I pull up a comparison here, we can look at it on Bitstamp, just so we have the same chart on a longer time frame. All right, let's pull that up. Oops. Well, that's fine. Yeah, we'll just do it that way. Okay, so now we have the BitMEX chart over here on the weekly. And let me just get rid of the indicators for us. And then I've got the Bitstamp chart over here. You can see there is a little bit difference on the Bitstamp chart because I've got these envelopes on it. So we'll do that. Okay, I hear that my sound is still pretty low because I was afraid to turn it up too much, but I guess I can turn it up more. So let's mess around with that real quick, and then we'll talk about these differences. Let's see. Okay, so I've got that turned up. Let's turn up the OBS a little bit. All right. Let me know if you're listening and that's too loud, too quiet, whatever it is you feel. Definitely open to feedback. Tell me I'm an idiot. That's fine. And like I said, if anybody knows how to fix the flickering, that is something I'm going to fix as soon as possible, as soon as I figure it out. So, okay. So we've got this going. All right. Yeah, so I turned up the volume. Let me know how that is. Great. All right, And if you have Twitter, share the channel. Feel free and get some more people in here talking about what they think, looking at stuff maybe you haven't seen or haven't looked at. It's always good to get as many perspectives as possible. Even if they're terrible perspectives, that's still useful information sometimes. Alright, so we've got the Bitstamp chart and we've got the BitMEX chart pulled up, both on a weekly time frame. Just to give you an idea of what I was talking about before with how they typically mirror each other pretty well. I mean, you can see pretty much the same information on both of these charts. No real significant differences in the price movement overall between the two of them. Pretty much the same levels too. What's nice about using this split screen, I hope you guys can see it, is that wherever I have my cursor, it's on the same place in both charts. So that's great. And then wherever I put a line, it's going to show up on just the one chart, so I can put things on both charts like that, but you can still see where my cursor is. All right, so that's nice about the split screen mode there with charts. And I typically try to look at the same coin or same stock in this style, because if I've got like XRP in one and, you know, TRX in another, it can get kind of confusing. Some people like to have multiple charts like that, but I like to focus and look at just one thing at one time. So I'll have it maybe in multiple time frames though, so that I can see the difference between the two time frames. And I'll show you something about that in just a moment here. All right, so we got the Bitstamp chart over here. Just want to pull it back so we can see what I was talking about last year. These EMAs that I use, they're pretty standard EMAs. It's part of a system that I just use to kind of filter information a little bit more. And you can see that after the EMAs turned on the weekly chart here, this was back in October of 2015, you know, there was this big, huge rise that led to that and a huge drawdown afterwards, followed by a long consolidation before, you know, price really broke out. However, after that point, which we just got again, you know, by the way, after the EMAs flipped bullish and you have the faster EMA above the slower EMA here on the weekly chart, long-term viewpoint again, you can see how the value area was tested. Price returned to what's considered the value area between those, and it bounced around here for a while, coming in and out. Long-term though, it closed above that value area, bouncing into it. And on a weekly chart, when price comes down into the value area, pretty much no matter what's happening, you always want to buy at that point when the fast EMA is above. If you're not trading on leverage or anything like that, if you're just trading on spot buying, this is something that's great to pay attention to, because those are the areas to set buys. You know, you can, and there's strategies for doing that, of course. It's just when price is in that area, it's a great time to buy. Typically, fear is very high in those moments because price has retraced significantly from its highs. And of course, you can take profit when it gets up to the envelope level or a predetermined level that you've set. Or once those, if you're doing really, really long term, you can just wait until the EMAs flip back over on the weekly level, and that's where you cash out and just wait. You know, if you had done nothing but that, just for an example, and this sounds easy, of course, you know, in retrospect, in the moment, it's very, very difficult to do this. But just for an example, you know, you can see price just continued to hit that value area on pullbacks and then pump right out of it. Now, this was happening again on a weekly time frame, so think about how often you're looking at the 5-minute chart and 1-hour chart, and, you know, just realize that that's a little teeny section of one of these candles. You know, it means absolutely nothing on this time frame. So if you had done just what I said, buying in that value area and not selling until those EMAs flipped back over, they flipped right here, And if we just look at a replay from this point, you were doing nothing, you know. And sure, it would have been great if you'd cashed out some at this point during the year, but you're definitely going to start to get a little concerned when you see those EMAs coming close to each other again and prices below them for a few weeks down here. You know, that might scare you out and you might FOMO buy back in right there. Not a big deal even if you cashed out down here, having bought all through the previous year. You still would have made a ton of money. But let's play this just as an example. Weekly. Remember, this is a weekly time frame. So you've got the next candle that's going to form over 7 days' time. Looks just like that. Closes above. You might think, okay, we're going to be safe again. Great. You're still not cashing out from having purchased all year last year. Oh, wow, maybe it's going up. You know, now people are getting bullish on Twitter again. They're like, it's finally back. We're still in a bull market. And if you were around back then, you saw that. You know, lots of people were very bullish at this point. They were looking for it to break out and put a new high in above that and confirm the bull market was still with us, you know. And, you know, not everybody was that way. There were still some people saying, it's all over, guys, you know, cash out now. And in retrospect, those people were right. In the moment, it's very hard to know who's right and what's going to happen. Now, this candle right here would have been the one that may have scared you. And one strategy is when price goes below that slow EMA, you just exit quickly because you can always re-enter once it's back above the fast EMA. You know, knowing this, there are certain, you know, people, programs, things like that that try to take advantage of that. Now, keep in mind, this has not closed yet. So if you were following just a basic MA strategy, you still have not cashed out your position that you started purchasing back in 2015. So you're looking at long-term gain right now. Of course, always nice to cash out when it's higher, but long-term strategies, that's what these are about. That's what these MAs are. They're not useful necessarily for short-term decisions at all. And there you go. So those have crossed. Now you can quick cash out at that point if you're following this strategy, or you can wait and see if it's a trap. This could very well have been a bear trap at this moment. You don't know. And there's also a high chance that price is going to return to this level, so you can be patient. But we're about to get this weekly close, and there you go. That's the confirmed bearish cross on the EMAs. And you can see that weekly candle opened down. A bunch of people were doing that. They cashed out right on that cross. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about just the MA crosses. These are EMAs specifically, and they are used through all markets for analysis, for gaining information. If you were patient with this strategy, you could have cashed out just like that when it's coming back up towards that price point. You still, at the very worst, would have cashed out around 7,300, having started buying way back here, you know, at worst case scenario $512. You know, imagine having actually done that. Most people are incapable of doing it because we're just not patient enough for that. And I mean, I'm really not patient enough for that generally, so I don't use that as an actual trading strategy. However, I do find it very useful for information. Alright, so anyway, now this is the first time, let's turn this off, yeah, get out of review mode here. This is the first time since then that those EMAs have crossed back over bullish. You know, use that as you may. To me, that means that we have a high probability of now being back in a bull market, as many of us have been talking about for quite some time now. Alright. So we've got these levels marked on the BitMEX chart, and I'm going to switch this back to the XBT chart just so we can look at this on multiple time frames. All right. Now we've got this. I'm going to move down to the daily time frame. All right. Now the daily time frame is more where I start to make strategic decisions, and it's a time frame I pay a lot of attention to, but always pay attention to the weekly as well, because it is very good for information. These are those same EMAs. They're just on the daily time frame now. So they turned way back here at 3,500 to looks like what, 3,600 area. So that would have been a great place to buy, obviously. I was buying at that level for other reasons too, which were posted in Discord and on Twitter. Let me just check here real quick, see if anybody's talking on there. All right, great. And feel free, if you've got comments, you can leave comments in the YouTube comment stream as well. I'm going to check on Twitter, see if we've got some requests and things like that going on yet. If you do have coin requests, just pop them in that Twitter post. I will check out a few coins here that people put in there. All right. And I'll check out a few that I'm trading myself as well. All right. So let's look at this daily chart up here with Bitcoin. I'm not in any highly leveraged positions currently because I wasn't able to pay as much attention to the market over the past few days, and thought that it would be good just to step away from the charts for a little while too. Helps refresh things, helps clear bias, things like that. Based on the fact that we had a higher low on the weekly and we've had a higher high on the weekly recently, I am bullish on the market. So I will pay more attention to bearish signals when I have a bullish bias to try and check that bias. That's just one of my personal preferences as well. All right, so daily chart. What do we got going on here? From a classical charting perspective, you'll see people talking about an ascending triangle area, kind of like this. This area over here was more of an ascending triangle with a breakout, and then looks like retest, kind of break down. Sort of eliminated that pattern to me. Now, we did break out though from this high, this closing high, which the daily closing area was really close to the weekly closing and opening as well. So I think that weekly area is a pretty important area to watch for the future. High likelihood of price returning to this area and testing it. It would be very bullish for it to come back down here, retest this area one more time, and then bounce strongly from it, because it would then bounce above the monthly open without actually reaching it. And that monthly open is in the daily value area right now. You can see how on a daily chart, when it's strongly bullish, price does come down to that value area, but it tends to not drop below so much. This was more of an indecision area here, where it did actually come down and drop below it, and that scared a lot of people out. So I was shorting Bitcoin over here, posted about that, and I shorted after this swing failure here, but on a lower time frame. So my short ended up, I forget the exact number now because the position is closed, but it was somewhere around 86, 67 that the actual entry, average entry, ended up being. I did have a chance to add some to it at this point, which brought the original short down. And that was based on some daily divergence on multiple indicators that I pay attention to. That was a great trade. Price obviously fell quite a bit here, came down, and I did end up closing that trade when we broke out above this candle here. So ended up closing it right here at, let's see, I could go look on the other computer and find out the exact number actually. But it was about 81.50-ish, if I recall correctly. And then had just a very low leverage long that I closed, what was that, 2 days ago, I think? So that netted me just a little bit more profit, which is nice. I do have a long position open on Bitcoin for the value of my account, but it is on cross leverage, and I do plan to stop out if on a lower time frame if we break below the last low on the 3 hour. So that's just something that I have open right now. But I will be looking soon for some more day trading opportunities on Bitcoin. Just not paying attention to that yet until I know I'm going to be actually sitting down at my desk and day trading. Now, on a daily level, we did get this new low right here. So this is an interesting point to me too. This new daily low was above this closing area over here, which was very important, and price rejected quite strongly there. Gonna look at some indicators on this one just to see what was going on. I do love paying attention to the OBV, and you can see the OBV has a classical charting pattern here, symmetrical triangle that it broke out of. So that's a fairly bullish movement on the OBV. And I was paying a lot more attention to that on a lower time frame, which I posted about in Discord and on Twitter. Now, let's see. This is the daily divergence that I was talking about across all of those time frames that you see there. And this was a true divergence on all of these time frames, and that's why I was confident in posting about shorting at that time. Now, and you heard, there were a lot of people at this point, especially during this rise, this candle, that were calling for new highs and continued bullish movement and don't short, but when I see divergence like this, like this on so many different things, that's something I'm going to pay attention to, and I'm not going to degenerately long during that moment. Now, I don't see technically that divergence right now, especially on the OBV. Obviously, you see there is a new high. This area is still, how many candles do we have here? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40. So typically 40 candles back is the very most that I look for divergence. And it's definitely more interesting to me if it's closer together. The closer it is together, the more immediate the movement in the opposite direction is likely to be. But when they're a medium range apart and they are true divergences, those movements are likely to be longer term movements and potentially much more drastic in their total percentage. So that's just something I pay attention to. Now, there is some possible divergence here, RSI, the MACD, the force index, which is something that I pay attention to somewhat. A lot of people in crypto don't really look at. But it's a momentum indicator and volume indicator. So it's a nice little combination of things. Now, the current daily candle is colored blue, which means that I have permission to act. During green candles, my personal system tells me that I should not be selling or shorting at that moment. This red candle I could sell or short potentially, although it is colored green on the system, which says this is not the moment to do so. Don't make a selling decision right now. This is just a filtering system, essentially. I did not develop it. It comes from someone who has been trading for a very, very long time. The blue means that action is permitted. In either direction, depending on other things, it doesn't tell me whether to buy or sell. And it's not closed yet, so technically this candle could change still. So it's worth paying attention to. The reason I say, there's some divergence is because we do have higher highs on price between these points on these indicators and lower highs on the indicator itself. But it's also following a divergence that played out, and from here to here, there's no divergence really on those same things. So it's, that's one that's a little bit more dangerous to play, in my opinion. I would want to see a divergence on a higher time frame, like the weekly, for example, which I don't technically see yet. Keep in mind that's a weekly, so you could see a lot of price movement down into that value area and even a new high before any sort of divergence truly develops on the weekly time frame. This divergence here, but it's not a very strong signal yet. Plus the OBV technically is still breaking out. Current OBV though is right there because this is an indicator that's painting still based on the current candle, which is not closed since it's the middle of the week there. So that's just kind of showing the same level high as before. Potentially bearish, but not a strong indicator. And again, we are in what I consider a bullish trend overall right now, which is why I have a low leverage long open even on a low time frame right now. All right, let's see. What else do we got going on here? Checking this. And like I said, guys, let me know if you can't hear me, if there's issues. I know that there is an issue with the flickering. Let me know if anything is unclear, you can't see, or if you don't understand something. All right. Oh, yeah, that's the other charts. We'll get to that one in a second. And this is just kind of sharing things that I'm paying attention to, I do like all of these indicators. I do pay attention to some other things sometimes. Depends on the strategy that I'm using right now. And for this, I'm just kind of gathering information at the moment. I'm not making any strategic decisions at the moment based on these things. This is just information gathering. Strategic decisions for trading happen on different time frames depending on what kind of trade it is, whether it's a day trade, a swing trade, things like that. And also, I personally perform a series of risk management decisions before I even consider entering the trade. Because for me, I need to know certain things before I decide to open any large trades especially, but even smaller trades, it's good to practice these things. And you'll find out all about that stuff in the risk management video, which will be a PowerPoint presentation when I have that finished and posted on the channel. Hoping to finish that and post it by next week. We'll see how motivated I am. All right. Let's see, what else do we got going on here? All right, so daily time frame, just to go back, we had this new low. I'd be watching that level. If price breaks below that level, this weekly level is the one that I'd be looking at for just a higher value entry. And I would expect by that point the EMA to be closer to this level, the fast EMA on the daily chart here. So again, this is the daily chart. This is the weekly chart over here. 2 time frames. I have them both open right now just so that I can compare things. All right. Current daily candle. Interesting. OBV, of course, still very bullish. The MACD, it came down after that divergent, popped back up. Yesterday, let's take a closer look at this actually. Yesterday was an equal close. That's not always great to see. When you have that, like you can see back here, you do tend to have more ranging in price or potentially price movements in the opposite direction. So just as an example, if we go to the price, let's see if what I said is true of this point back here. So on the MACD, for example, we had equal and equal. So price rose, higher price point, but very similar levels on the MACD there. So, and that's just on the histogram, which is a measurement of momentum volume, things like that. And it shows basically the distance between the EMAs on the MACD. Yeah. So, and I'm not going to explain the whole MACD. There's videos in the Discord. There's great resources on MACD and how to use it properly in trading. I use some specific signals on the MACD, especially for day trading. I really enjoy using it. So, all right. But you can see we have, at that point, this candle was the equal candle to this one on the MACD histogram. So higher price, but same distance between the EMAs. So something obviously is kind of out of whack at that point, and we see that the price did come back and retest the value area here. Pop up again, of course. MACD signals on the daily time frame. You know, like I said, you can't use this necessarily as a strategic entry because look at how much space you have. Look at how much volatility you have right here. Just pull this up as an example. Between the first time you got a signal and the highest point in price, it's 12%, and then all the way down, I mean, that was a nearly 15% range that developed there. You know, and that's why you want to pay attention to smaller time frames for strategic entries. If you were using the EMAs, though, to tell you good information, at the point that price came back to this EMA, that's a great high-value buying point, you know? So you look at lower time frames for your actual entry when you see that on the daily level. So when you see this, it just says that, okay, now it's time to start paying attention on the daily and on lower time frames. Interesting, though, at that time, there weren't a lot of other signals that said something is out of whack. You know, you've got strong RSI for the most part. You've got strong OBV, things like that. The force was technically, you know, leveling off, but that's pretty standard after a movement like that. I mean, that was a crazy pop right there. So kudos to anyone who was in a long position and took some profit. I was in a very public long position from down here, as well as another one on leverage from this area at that time. You know, I lose money too. I don't get all of this stuff right, and because I day trade a lot, you know, I collect lots of small losses, and which is typically on higher leverage with larger positions than the longer term positions like that. So, you know, I do lose money sometimes. But overall, equity curve points up very nicely. Now, let's see what's going on up here. We were talking about just how we have that equal level on the MACD. Again, we could see lots of volatility, but these two MACD candles just kind of tell me, I should pay a little bit more attention. I should watch more closely because we have expansion and then no more expansion, and then today's candle will be very telling. If this closes below that point, might be useful just to not be in any high leverage long positions on a longer term. But again, this is not an exit signal, this is not a sell signal, this is not a short signal or anything like that. You know, high probability of being stopped out of any position if you try to trade based, especially just on one indicator and one lagging indicator at that. so let's see. What do we got going on here? This is the daily high, obviously, on a closing basis. We had new high, new high, new high, new high on a daily level. And of course, this was the first high that broke out from the previous high from, 2 weeks ago there. We had new high. Yesterday's retraced, broke below the previous day's candle, but did close above it. So that can be considered bullish for now until that lower level is penetrated itself. I'm watching a 3-hour chart on another computer in my actual trading account, and just kind of waiting for a 3-hour candle to close here to tell me a little bit more information. Daily levels to watch for a breakout are right above this level here. As you can see, we had that new high, and then price really fell from there. I want to see, though, volume-wise at that point. So this is just a volume MA. We did have a volume spike a little bit, let's see, but the volume spike... Oh, I gotta turn off the OBV to see this properly. Okay, so the volume peak happened during this downturn. So it'd be interesting to just kind of check out what happened here. All right. So this shows the volume peak here, but that's the nice thing about using the MA is it shows where things start to turn instead of just the exact moment of the peak. So this was the highest volume candle technically on BitMEX here. And then this candle, lower volume, this candle, lower volume. Again, that just goes to confirm what I was saying about the bullishness of it. I don't see this as a bearish candle currently based on that, plus just its structure. But here's the thing. Anybody who actually trades is going to be wrong a lot, all the time. You're not trying to be right all the time. In fact, professional futures traders are wrong a majority of the time. What about binary options? Love you. Great, love it. Yeah, don't trade options. If you trade options, you're stupid, everyone. If you write options, you're high IQ and you're better than everyone else in the world. Just remember that. Now, let's see. What else do we got going on here? I'm going to get rid of the actual volume candles because I don't really like them. All right. Lower time frame. Let's go down to one of my favorite time frames, the 3-hour. Okay. Where's the OBV? I want to get that back. OBV is one of my favorites. Love this indicator. Nick Core, Crypto Core, actually has a great educational piece on TradingView about the OBV, and we do have it posted in Discord in the education section. So feel free to check that out if you don't use it or if you want to learn more about it. All right. So this is one that I like to check out levels on. So now I've just got the OBV pulled up on the 3-hour time frame here, and I'm going to move this weekly down to the daily over here just so that I have that for comparison. All right. Now with the OBV, one of the things I was watching before that helped me with the short that I did, that I mentioned earlier in the stream, was this level and this level. These look very different on price. They're so much cleaner on the OBV here. So this was a big telling sign to me when we reached this point on the OBV, which was below this previous low and just rejected there. I was super short at that point. But you can see how we came down, we broke back above this level. This was the point where I was really no longer in any shorts. Oh, the music, 50 greatest classical pieces from YouTube. Just got some classical music on while I'm looking at charts here. Helps me focus. Keeps me from getting distracted. I have to listen to music when I'm trading, when I'm looking at charts, stuff like that. Sometimes it's like hip-hop music, sometimes classical music. I typically want stuff without too many words, though. That's just my own thing. But I get really distracted really easily. It's horrible, he says. You should die. You know nothing about music, sir. So you can see how the OBV came back into that range. That was when I was out of all my short positions. Let's just look at the price and see where it was at that point in the OBV. So this point right here. So yeah, that was the point that I was telling you about. It popped up into here in that 81. I think I got out at about 81.50 at that point. So the OBV, yeah, super need Grateful Dead. Yeah, you guys are one and the same there. How about some Miley Cyrus? We'll go for that. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to play that. Let's see. What else we got going on here? So on a 3-hour level, we bounce back into the value area, and that 3-hour candle is bouncing up. It closes in 13 minutes. Can I have mod status? Yeah, I'll probably add you in at some point to the channel. Of course. We got to get you and get Josh and get Whalebear in here and some other guys. I want to actually do some streams with some guests, you know, some Twitter people, maybe people that you wouldn't necessarily bring on your stream, but I'm going to be, you know, a little bit smaller stream, so I can mess with people. How about now? I'm here. All right, yeah, join in. Hold on, I'll send you the stream key. Nice. What does that mean? All right, let's see here. Manage moderators. Dun da da. Oh, I gotta go get your channel URL to put you in here. Hold on. Hold on. I'm just gonna make you a moderator, and then you're just gonna delete the channel. I know you. Do you have your channel URL posted in here? Oh, just click your name. Okay. What? No, that doesn't work. Oh, I see. I'm learning to use YouTube. There we go. All right, you should be a moderator now. What is Tesla target? 10,000. Nano. Oh, I haven't looked at Nano in a long time. Yeah, we'll check it out in a minute here. I bet that it's just terrible. You're already a moderator, Core. Right click. Target. Target is 0. I have power. Welcome, Nick Core, to the moderators. And of course, he'll be in this, you know, anytime I'm streaming, anytime he's streaming, we'll be around. You know us. You're going to be seeing a lot more of us very soon doing this kind of stuff. Oh, yeah. Well, that long is doing just fine at the moment on the 3-hour. If this 3-hour closes up there, that's going to be nice. Don't ruin it, Nick. Don't ruin it. All right, so let's see. Give him 10 likes. Like all of the things. Yeah, and you know, as the channel grows, we'll do some more fun stuff. We'll do some giveaways at some point. You know, like a plushy furry doll or something. We'll figure something out. We'll have a good time. And anybody who's, you know, a regular in the Discord and stuff, if you guys want to jump on a stream sometime, let me know. I'd be happy to have you in here, and, you know, we can have people yell at you guys, too, for saying things. All right. Oh, there's a bunch of weirdness now down here because we're zoomed in. I'm just going to get rid of this for the moment. Get that back. All right, so Yeah, I don't really see any significant bearish signals on low time frames, stuff like that. Um, you know, I can be wrong, of course. That's what you have to say, so that if I tell you something and you lose all your grandma's life insurance money, you know, you can't actually blame me. That's the thing. That's the disclaimer. If you want to pay me to manage your money, of course, then that's a different story, but that's not happening because I know all of you at the moment and none of you are. All right, what do we got going on? All right, let's take a look at some altcoins here. Like I said, I'm not seeing anything like really significant on Bitcoin for an entry overall. I do like what I'm seeing here on the force index though, and just the fact that these pushes down here became less successful on this second attempt over here. Plus, after this attempt to push price down below value, it shot right back up, and current candle's about to close above the high of the previous candle, which is always nice for a little long position for me. If we come back down here, I would stop out at that low personally. You know, so you have to have a position if you're trading on leverage that allows you to do that based on your own risk management. I'm not going to teach you risk management on this stream. Again, I'm working on a risk management video that will be posted on the channel eventually, so take a look. Keep an eye out for that as well. All right, let's look at some of these altcoins and stuff. We had a request for a nano, I believe. Just going to put all this stuff on a daily chart here. Haven't looked at nano in a very long time. All right, let's see here. Nano Bitcoin. Now with, ooh, yikes. Look at that. All right, have a good one, man. Oof. Okay, so here's the thing with altcoins, guys. I only trade altcoins based on weekly and daily charts. They are illiquid for the most part. They are terrible to hold. Like if you look at the chart of almost any altcoin, it is not something you want to hold long term. It's something that you want to look for a specific trade and trade that plan. Once you formulate it, you should formulate your plan based on at least 2 time frames. I like the weekly and daily for this stuff. I only make strategic decisions on altcoins based on a daily chart. So my positions are generally a little smaller in those because I have to be willing to accept higher volatility. Just because the chart is up. I'll give you an example. With XRP right now, I do have an open position in it. I have one position open from 47.86. So that's like what? Basically almost where we are right now. My position is open on leverage, not on Binance. So my position is actually just above, pretty much break even where it is now. Slight profit, but you know, it's nothing really yet. And then I have another open position which is underwater right now, which I should have closed, but I was busy this week and paying less attention. It's a little bit underwater because it's open from 51.84. So not really concerned about that one, just kind of holding on to it at the moment. Yeah, so that's one of those, just as an example. I'm only making strategic decisions based on a daily chart. Now, okay, let's look at Nano for real. I'll stop trying to make you better people here. I want to check out Nano on a longer time frame. So I'm going to see if it's got a better chart anywhere. Oh geez, it's not on very many major exchanges. So what's going on here with, ooh, yikes. Oh, that's even worse. Okay. I thought Nano was older than this. I guess it's not. Now, here's my suggestion. If you are holding this and it's way, way down right now, and you don't have a good reason for it to be bouncing, you just shouldn't be in it. Even if you've lost all your money, tax loss, if you're in the US or anywhere else that allows that, great. Sell it, get rid of it. It's down. It looks like it's continuing to go down. And what's probably going to happen? It's probably going to fucking bounce. But unless you have a good reason, you shouldn't be even trading it. It's altcoins you should not hold. You should only be holding long-term dollars, whatever currency is your major currency, or Bitcoin itself. Everything else should be a trade, and that's it. That's my own personal viewpoint, and that of many other traders. Investors, on the other hand, that's something else. That's different. That's not trading. All right, let's check this out. Let's check out Nano on TradingView only has it on these few exchanges. That's the only thing. So I might actually look at it on a USD chart after this. Well, yeah, actually we will. We'll look at it on a USD chart after this. So, and it's even worse there. Okay, so we're just going to look at Binance for now because it still probably has the most volume of any exchange for the coin. Now, unfortunately with this one, you can't really look at this on a weekly time frame because there's not a lot of information to go off of. So any indicators and stuff like that, they're not really going to tell you that much on this time frame, as you can see. So in this case, I'm probably going to use a 3-day and a day for my strategic information. All right, so but let's look at the weekly anyway because weekly is still important. So this was the all-time weekly low over here. Price has gone down and closed below that. That's a terrible sign. It can and often does become some people call it a swing failure or a kangaroo tail or a false downside break. These things are slightly different, but somewhat related. Each of them has their own specific rationale, though, for what it is. Yeah, absolutely. Who knows says, thanks for the stream. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these streams, and I am going to be creating some educational video content of my own because I've just been looking around and seeing a lot of stuff's not great or a lot of stuff that is good. Just leaves certain things out that I think are important to have. Can you look at BNB USDT? Sure, I'll take a look at BNB as well, and I have an XZC request. We'll also try and take a look at that. All right, so we have the Nano chart pulled up right now. This is a weekly here on the left-hand side and a daily chart over here on the right-hand side. All right, just checking Twitter to see if we have any other requests out there. Cool, same stuff. We're all good. Okay, now with Nano, my own personal feelings based on things that I look at. The indicators, again, don't tell me much. OBV is a leading indicator. The problem with a leading indicator on a weekly time frame is that you're going to get signals way before they play out sometimes. So it's interesting, but again, not useful for strategic movements. Having said that, however, let me just show you this. Look at this pattern here. This is a false downside break right there on the weekly with a break back up and then a bounce at that level. So this could have been a great point when it came back down and retested kind of that previous level to go, oh, something's happening here. Maybe I should look for trades on a lower time frame. And even if you just were an idiot and degenerately market bought the shit at that point when it bounced and created this little thing, I mean, you still would have collected at the very worst, 24, potentially up to 34 plus. I mean, that's a huge, I don't know if you necessarily understand how big that trade could have been. I mean, that's a 42% trade. You know, if you went into that, even with decent risk management, that would be a huge win for you right there. And, you know, close out at whatever point you would have based on your own risk management and or signals for that. But you can catch, you know, big movements like this. It is possible. However, you know, look at what's happened here. You had this huge peak, and now it's come down and it's dropped way below its previous level. So this is the kind of thing I look for a potential false downside break. I would look for that false downside from this point to this point, and I would want to look at lower time frames to find the possibility for that. But basically what I'm seeing is, on the OBV alone, just on this time frame, is that we had this high, we have this new higher low with a lower low in price. So this is a pretty massive divergence right there between those points, you know, on a weekly time frame. Again, so signals on a weekly time frame play out over months or even years. Keep that in mind. All right, that 3 hour did close on BTC. It closed pretty well, actually, so I will probably add to my position here on the leveraged BTC trade. Volume is expanding. It dropped a little bit on that. But again, if price comes down and hits 90.46 area, I'm going to get out of that trade real quick, personally. Yeah. So that's what's going on with a strategic trade based on a 3 hour time frame right now. And if I'm trading on the 3 hour, often I'll look at the 30-minute time frame just for my entries and exits. Yeah. So just as an example of my own trading strategies. You know, simple trading strategies, well-defined simple trading strategies will outperform complicated things almost all the time. You know, tons of the people that you see on Twitter are not actually trading. They're posting trades, they're posting analysis, but they are not actually trading. Keep that in mind. Some of them are, you know, but many of them are photoshopping pictures and stuff like that. And many of them are just marketing, you know, friends, paid products and things like that. If you are paying for signals to buy or sell, you're getting scammed. There's just like never that it's not a scam. So don't do it. Pay for education. Pay for, you know, tools that are going to help you. Pay for trading tools that you use in an active strategy. Things like that. Don't pay for someone to say buy. You're never going to learn. You're never going to be profitable long term. You're going to lose money. Just don't do it. All right. Anyway, I see. This is what I'm talking about. You can see I get distracted. So, all right. I need to pull this back up. All right. Let's look at the Nano. So, like I said, I'll be looking for that on a lower time frame. But let's lower the time frame to 3 days because I think we'll just get better signals based on the things that I pay attention to personally. The 3 day is pretty much at the same level. Oh, it looks like it's actually a little bit lower than the weekly was. So this is that weekly level that seems really important to me. So I'm just going to put a line right there. And you can see this is what I was talking about earlier when we were talking about Bitcoin. When you have a split screen like this, get rid of this. When you have a split screen chart that's the same chart on the same exchange, when you put things on the chart, it appears on both sides, which is really easy, just makes things a lot faster and super helpful for comparisons when you're looking at multiple time frames, which you should always be doing. All right, so 3 day and day. Now the orange is just a color I personally use. I always use it on the weekly, so I always know that that is from the weekly. Some of the other stuff, depending on what I'm looking at, might change. For the 3 day, I'm going to use the purple right now. If we can get a daily and a 3 day that closes back above that weekly level, that would be a time that would be good for entry with a stop below, or not below, sorry, at the previous low until it creates a new higher low, and then raise the stop to that point. That's a personal strategy. You know, if you put a stop below the low, you're more likely to experience a stop hunt, larger slippage, and all kinds of other problems. So just don't do it. Don't put stops below an obvious price level like that. Put your stop at or slightly above the low. Or one strategy that I really like is waiting for a new higher low and placing the stop right at that level, or just below that level if you're worried about a stop hunt below it. Depends on the time frame that it's on, you know, and you will get stopped out. It happens. You just have to learn to accept small losses like that, or getting stopped out in small profits and sometimes missing things. It's, you know, part of the strategy. That's just the way it works. A perfect example of this idea on a previous area would be on a 3-day. If you waited for this candle close right here, which is blue on the 3-day, which would allow buying under my own personal rules, if there was a signal on other indicators, once you bought right there, the stop would have gone right here at this previous low that's above the lowest low. And that's just going to help keep your losses to a minimum and stop you out at a point where it's unlikely that your idea is going to be right, or you're going to get an opportunity to buy at a better price or the same price where you originally wanted to. Not a problem. All right, anyway. See, I said I wouldn't include a bunch of risk management, and just inevitably I do. All right, TRX BTC opinion of fundamental news about the diner, Warren Buffett, and Tron's. Oh, yeah, I mean, fundamental. Zach, I don't actually pay a lot of attention to fundamental stuff personally. That doesn't mean it's not useful. A lot of people pay attention to it, and it is useful. In crypto specifically, fundamentals do drive price. Because crypto is a fairly low regulation market, though, the asymmetry of information is very, very apparent in crypto. So anybody with insider knowledge is going to act on it before it becomes public. And that's fairly obvious in the charts most of the time. So typically I just pay more attention to charts, to price action, and certain indicators that tell me a story about what's happening. So that's my own preference, based on the fact that, you know, Tron CEO will be dining with Warren Buffett. Yeah, obviously that's super bullish for Tron in general. Might be good for crypto in general. It's definitely a great marketing ploy, and, you know, whether Tron is a scam or not or anything else, I think we probably owe a little bit of thanks to Justin for spending the money to buy that dinner, basically. Because it is about adoption to some extent, and he's inviting, you know, Satoshi Light and some other people. It'll be interesting to see who ends up actually attending that dinner. I do agree with what Nick has said on Twitter about it being kind of strange that CZ turned him down. I think that's a big missed opportunity. So, psychological effect of the meeting. I don't know what you mean. Explain that a little bit more to me. All right, now going back and looking at Nano just from a price perspective here, we've got this strong sell-off, as you can see right there. On a daily OBV, that sell-off did breach this low, but still is, you know, higher than the OBV was up here. Again, that's a pretty significant divergence on the OBV. Because OBV is a leading indicator, though, indicators on the OBV happen much sooner than they will on other indicators. And so you got to be careful with that. It can be dangerous for strategic decisions sometimes. Because there was such a spike here, I want to zoom in a little bit more on the force index. This is a very useful indicator to me personally, but don't use it unless you understand it, because it's not like a standard RSI or anything like that. Now, okay, so strong sell-off on the force index, and yet bounced at the exact same level down here. So that's super interesting to me. That was this point. So this sell-off here had the same amount of force that this sell-off had way down here. That's fascinating. And with very little force, the market has continued down like that. Also, volume overall has been decreasing on that sell-off, and it looks like we're about to get divergence on the daily time frame on the MACD. So yeah, I mean, this is an ugly, ugly chart, but it does look like that price is being manipulated down to scare people out. And I think a lot of altcoins are doing this right now, honestly. This seems to be kind of the play in altcoins, is anybody who is holding, you know, from up here, who didn't close out at these levels, anybody who bought during this because, altcoin season and things like that, they're way underwater now. You know, they're super scared. They're very fearful. If they didn't close out when price broke below these previous lows, I mean, they're super scared. That's what this is. You know, this bounced back up just to that same level. Look at that. I mean, I can just hold my cursor there and you can see it. It bounced up to that level and had a strong sell-off. That was all people trying to get out of underwater positions. So the market makers that are doing this have been successful, I think. And yes, this is conjecture. I'm just assuming that this is the case. But, you know, they put up sell walls and they made a nice little profit here, put up sell walls to push that price down, and they scared a whole bunch of people out. So when the price started to bounce there, all those people sold out. That triggers anyone else that was trying to buy down here. They're going to stop out right there. You've got stops triggering, pushing the price down even more into this level between the low on the 3-day and the previous low on the weekly. So these are all-time low levels, and the all-time low closing level on the daily is only a little bit lower, so we might still see it hit that, you know, for a good shakeout. If it's a dangerous buy right now, that's the thing. You know, on the 3-day, I do not have currently a signal that I can buy. There were some here that would have allowed me to potentially buy, but at that same time, yeah, I guess there were some signals. So there were some signals that would have allowed me to buy here, and I would have bought and probably been one of these people out of water trying to quickly close right there. And again, that's going to happen. You're not going to get it right every single time. You're going to have to stop out sometimes. You're going to have to accept small losses so that you don't accept big losses. That's the thing. Because again, like, you know, if you had had a good buy signal, I'm sure I can find one actually right in here somewhere on multiple indicators. I mean, geez, here's an example. There's a good buy signal. Divergence, 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 divergence. You know, on a daily time frame between those 2 points. If you had bought there and, you know, you didn't stop out, you would have been underwater there. And then in your head, you're going, oh yeah, sure, Nevermore, but look, it rose up and I would have been in profit. Yes. And I bet you still wouldn't have sold and you would still be underwater. Most people don't actually have the patience and the willpower to sell in profit when things start to turn around like they did here, because they're certain that it's a bull market, and if I sell at 20% profit, I'm going to miss 200% profit. Don't lie to yourself. You know, most people are going to do stuff like that, and that's why these patterns exist. because the majority of people are holding, scared, selling. That's what's happening. That's what creates these patterns. And again, you're probably not the exception. Operate like you're not. I try to operate like I'm not. That's why I can trade. Why I can stay in the game through a bear market, you know. Assume that you're dumb and act accordingly. It's very helpful. All right. So what would be a decent buying signal? Well, I mean, especially on the daily, I like looking at this. This is divergent. This is divergent. You know, this is divergent. Great. So we have daily divergences. If you're going to enter just on something like that, when price has fallen like this, you're taking a very dangerous entry. I want to see on a higher time frame a signal that allows me to enter. Examples of those signals: this candle closes blue for me, just like it did up here. That's a signal that's like, okay, the market might be turning. I'm going to look at the daily for my strategic entry. So I'm going to look down here and try and find a good position to enter. And what might that be? Well, as soon as the price breaks back above this previous level here would be a perfect example of a time where I would buy into a coin like this if I get divergence on a higher time frame and a lower time frame and a signal to buy. My issue with this coin right now is there is no real divergence on higher time frames. It's just, see, this is not divergent. This is going down with the price right now. That could mean that it's just going to bounce around. You know, there's going to be a big range or something like that. There is no real divergence here either. There's technically some divergence on the OBV, but not short-term, only long-term divergence on that. You know, and again, if you're buying on long-term divergence, I mean, just alone, for example, this is all divergent basically here. That means you would have started buying at these lows, and then you're still buying at these lows, you know, and you probably would have bought at this low and this low, things like that. So again, be careful with that kind of stuff. You can't base decisions on single indicators. Price is below value on the higher time frame, the 3-day, and on the daily time frame. I don't have that indicator on. This is my indicator. I made it, so you won't find it on TradingView. All right, now let's see, what do we got? We got a few more people in here. Feel free to leave comments, guys, if you want to check out some stuff. I am starting to get hungry for lunch, so I'm going to try and take a look at a few more things, maybe not quite as in-depth because you're starting to get, you know, the sense of the way I think at this point. But do keep an eye out. We will be doing a lot more of these streams, both Nick and I and Josh and Whale Bear and a bunch of other people, friends online and from Twitter and stuff like that. Hopefully going to be doing some stuff with the hash rate guys at some point, and going to be doing stuff, well, yeah, with all of them. And, of course, Crypto, Chris Walken. If you guys need mining information, make sure you check out Walken's Discord as well. He's got a bunch of great stuff on mining. Now, Zach, what indicator are you talking about there? Hey, Edward. How's it going, man? Good to see you here. Let's see. All right. Yeah, so those are my feelings on Nano. Nano looks really bad right now. It could just continue down. It could bounce here. You have no way of knowing. I have no way of knowing. If I wanted to trade this, I have no good signals right now other than divergence on a daily time frame on the MACD based on my personal information. Is it worth a risk to me? Not personally. Might this be the bottom? Yes, it very well could be the bottom, you know? But again, I have no way of knowing that. And I'm not going to say that, and I'm not going to try and, you know, just gain clout by calling this and hoping it's real. Nobody knows, you know? The market is smarter than anybody. So with this chart, especially on the daily right now, personally, I would want to see one daily candle close above the previous open at the very least, and above the previous day's high at the best. The thing with trading a divergence on the MACD is this is not technically a confirmed divergence yet, because the MACD is still expanding in a bearish direction. So this is not worth a trade in my opinion right now. If you're holding it from right here and you haven't sold out, should you? I mean, I don't know. That's based on your own, that's based on your own risk management, but this is not a coin that I would be interested in buying personally at the moment. And if I don't have a reason to buy it at the moment, I don't want to be in it at all at the moment. I would much rather be in USD, euros, whatever my base currency is at the time. If I'm in China, then I'm going to be charting stuff based on the Chinese yuan. So stuff like that, the CNY. Now, a lot of people do like to hold in USD because it's, a currency that many other currencies are traded against and based off of and things like that. I personally am of that thought. I prefer to be in dollars or in Bitcoin if Bitcoin is in a bull market. But I am going to trade to minimize my risk in that situation using leverage. And that's a whole nother story. Going into synthetic USD or shorting the value of my position and accepting smaller losses if it turns out that the market continues in the bullish direction. So, but that's whole conversation. The below value indicator, looking horizontal line. Oh no, so Zach, the horizontal lines are just lines that I placed on the chart personally. The orange one is based on the weekly close. That was the all-time low weekly close and open previously. We're below that right now. That's the orange. And always on my charts, when I post stuff in Discord and things like that, orange is going to be a weekly level. No matter what time frame you see the line on, that comes from a weekly level. The purple is normally a yearly level. In this case, I am using it as a 3-day level because there's just not a lot of information on Nano historically yet, so it's hard to make long-term trading decisions on the coin. So that's where those two levels come from. The below value is just the EMAs. That's these two lines, and they're plotted automatically because of this indicator that I made specifically to use. But I can show you the EMAs. They're just standard EMAs. So it's using, the whole system does multiple things though, so pay attention to that. But the center EMA, you can see it move here when I change this, is just a 26, and the short or the fast EMA is a 13. So those are just pretty standard EMAs that are used across all markets, and I use them on higher time frames especially to determine when something is above or below value and when something is in a bull or bear market on that time frame. That's what that is. So you could plot those indicators yourself if you want, just using EMAs. I typically use a duller color or softer color for the slow, and a brighter or hotter color for the fast EMA. So right now it's below value, but also in a bearish trend on the higher time frame. So that's a time where when I trade, I would only be trading this coin for a pop back to value. I wouldn't be trying to hold it for a reversal at this moment. And there are no reversal signals on the 3-day time frame that I can see for longer term on Nano currently. That's my opinion on that one right now. And again, this might be the bottom. So, but I don't trade trying to catch the bottom. That's just not something I really do, personally. It's not worth it. You're going to end up losing money way more often than not trying to do that. You could even just wait. Just wait until Nano turns again on the 3-day, and then look for an entry on the 1-day, or wait for a turn in the EMAs on the 1-day, enter, and just close out if they close back below, or if the 3-day can't flip bullish. You know, that's a perfectly legitimate long-term strategy when you're not trading on leverage. You just need to follow your own risk management and have a realistic stop placed somewhere. You know, ideally, what would be amazing to see on this coin would be for the price to bounce up strongly, consolidate for a while above this weekly level, creating basically a new side to this. And I would want to see, you know, another low around this same level, a new higher low created. Once this coin creates this low as a low, and then a new higher low, so easy to trade. You buy it near that higher low, and you stop out, you put your stop at the low if you can, or at the lower of the two lows on either side of this low. That's just a great trading strategy. I just simplified it. That's not all the rules to it, but you can read more about that. And I'll talk more about that strategy in a video at some point on stops and in risk management. All right. Yeah, so that's Nano. All right, let's take a look at, let's see, BNB USDT, and then I'll look at XCC real quick as well. And then I'll probably have to go. So we'll do more of these though. Let's see, what's today? Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, we'll probably have a stream tomorrow again. I'll see if I can get some of the other guys to join me as well, so it's not just me talking the whole time. And hey, maybe we'll do some video games too at some point or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have some fun though. Maybe we can get Nick Core on here at some point in a dunk tank. And you guys can, you know, like do things, and we can throw balls to like drop him in water. We'll tell him about that later. All right, what am I looking at? I'm looking at BNB. Oh yeah, I said I would check this out on USDT though too, real quick. So let's just look at that, and then we'll switch to BNB. There's, wow, no information there. Okay. Where is this? I mean, it doesn't look great on that either, but it is in a value area. The thing is that, you know, Bitcoin is still going to be a better thing to trade if this is the case. Yeah, this just doesn't look amazing at all. And on the daily, like, I wouldn't want to be buying this based on a USD or USDT chart until the price was at least back above the value level, and I'm seeing some bullish twist in that EMA structure. Because right now, you're just below, you know, you're hoping at this point. You're basically hoping that this buy is right. There is some, like, fake divergence, so you might see price bounce a little bit short term. But you do have this low level, which seems like it needs to be retested, or it needs to be actually passed before price reverses. Yeah, no, don't like a lot about that. Want to see that come back up and show more bullish signs before I would have any interest in trading it on either the BTC or the USD chart. All right, let's look at BNB. All right, BNB USDT. What do we got here? Oh yeah, let's switch this back to a week chart, and let's switch this to the actual BNB chart. Okay. Sweet. We got Tether. Oh, look at that. Look at BNB. It's just, what a crazy, crazy chart. What a crazy coin. Obviously, the BTC chart is very good on this one as well, just for like trading decisions. Something, let's see here. Something I like right away is I see lots of consistent volume kind of going into this. You know, the volume MA is starting to drop off a little bit here on these new highs, but that's to be expected. Market kind of gets scared. The USDT chart looks a lot like a classical charting ascending triangle pattern. You can see it right there. So that might be worth trading for those who trade classical charting patterns. On the weekly time frame, with the stuff that I pay attention to, I don't see any major bearish signals. That doesn't mean price can't do these little things, you know, return, but that's a return to value when that happens. And on a weekly time frame, it looks like that's all that's happening. So, you know, $26 looks like a pretty fabulous buy point right now. But look at how these things play out, okay? So check this out. So I'll show you just a review here. We're on the weekly chart, remember, and I'm going to review so you have playback on the candles and the way the EMAs get painted when you are at the right-hand side of the chart. Because again, you're making decisions here, not in the past. So you have to see how this works. So for example, I'm going to place a buy at this fast EMA level, and I'm going to wait for it. So on this week, it's at 1477. Now we get the close. So I raise my buy a little bit. Do I miss this? Yes, I miss that movement potentially if I'm not already in this coin. Learn to allow yourself to miss movements. If you're not already in, it almost never pays to jump on board last minute. All right, you got to close. So now you've got to raise your buy price to the close price. And you can even, with an EMA, actually here, let's pause this for a second. It's harder to see it when it's a line, kind of. So if you want, you can change this to a cross, or you can change this to a circle or something like that, just so you can see, because the current one is still being created. The past is the one that you want to actually place your buy at or slightly above on that strategy. So let's leave it at that so you can see what I'm talking about. So raise your buy to here, to the 1537 level, or just above that, 1546. Let's see if this buy ever gets hit. Again, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, so I'm just basing it off of something I might do in this situation. In this one, I was already in this coin based on other factors that were posted previously. All right, we got a new close, so now we've got a new level. So now you got to raise your buy again using that strategy. 1666 looks like a decent level for that. And I'm showing you this just so that I can make a point for the future with this coin and the chart that we're currently looking at in the present day. Because again, it's easy to say stuff about things that have happened in the past, but a lot of people, you know, use examples from the past without understanding how that is, you know, plays into the future or the current charting of something. So here you would have to raise your buy again. You raised it to 17. You're not changing it based on where this little one moves, okay? So you could do that, or you could have put it slightly above that level. And you see what happened? It got down near it, and it bounced back hard. If you had been placing it just based on that strategy right above that level, you would not have been filled, you know? So, and you would have missed it, and I know what's going to happen now, is it's going to continue up. So you would not have gotten into this movement. The other way to do it, of course, is that once it surpasses the previous weekly open/high, you would enter at that point. That's a little bit more dangerous, and you have to be willing to accept higher volatility or just be willing to stop out sooner in that case. There's also the 4-week pattern, which is a price action pattern that has proven profitable over a long term in just about any market. It's one of the most profitable long-term strategies that has ever been invented. But you can read more about that if you want to check it out sometime. 4-week breakout is, I think, what it's called. I don't think it's useful for strategic entries and exits in crypto because crypto moves too quickly and it's too volatile, but it is useful for bias and helping you find strategic entries once you get a signal from it. So yeah, so that was an example of that. Now let's close this and go to present day. All right, so we have the same thing kind of going on. We had this little down. Now this is the previous low. This was the previous low before that. This, I guess, is technically the previous low, but that is a green/blue candle. So I would have considered the previous low like way down here on a red candle myself. All right. Now you can look at some levels price action wise. Let's look at this. You know, I'm going to place lines at any sort of major horizontal like that or like this. That's a weekly level. That is the weekly breakout point right there. That's a point that has a high likelihood of being retested. Same idea here. That's the weekly breakout. If this week closes above that, that's probably a bullish sign. It means that this ascending triangle pattern will probably play out at least for a short-term pop up. This previous low here is the kind of like make or break point, in my opinion. I don't think that price will return to this value area on the weekly until that is above that level, because if we break below that, that's a new lower low instead of a new higher low to confirm the continued bullishness. At some point, though, we have to get that. We have to get that new lower low for a longer-term consolidation where we could come back down and test that previous breakout point. You know, I don't know when that's going to happen, though. It's just something that's likely to happen. That's all. Based on the daily chart here, you know, it looks very much like a pretty standard charting pattern, so expect nonsense and expect people to try and manipulate the feelings of the crowd and the psychology of the masses. What I don't love is the force of the most recent movements are decreasing significantly. So this might be a fake out move here. You know, yeah. That looks like a high probability of false upside break to me at the moment. So we might still see price bounce up here, you know, break out to near $40 or something before it really comes down hard again. Basically the same kind of pattern that we had on Bitcoin. You see right here, you know, on this daily chart, we had that ascending triangle. It looks like BTC is doing something really similar. It's just behind the curve still. So strong breakout, then divergence develops, strong break back down to retest a previous area there. So I think probably going to see something similar play out on BNB USDT. I don't know if there will be a catalyst for it. I don't know if there will be, you know, another reason. But again, like I said, fundamental information tends to come out after insiders have acted on it. They always have the information first. It's unavoidable. It happens in every market. Insider trading is real. Just get used to it. It's not the reason you're losing money. You know, just accept that that's part of life. Information is available asymmetrically, and most of us who are trading are the last people to get the information, just like everybody else who's trading, retail traders, whoever it is, institutional traders, things like that. Some of them, sure, get it before we do. But the chart itself is where that information can possibly be seen before it happens, and you could find all kinds of examples of this from the past as well. All right. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to go look at this daily again on... The thing with BNB is that it is super volatile. So it is kind of hard to chart, kind of hard to trade because of that. You know, I would be looking like, for example, were there any signals at this point that would have told me to buy here? And I mean, at that exact moment, based on a daily chart, no, not really, you know. This candle, not really either. This candle, maybe. There's kind of like some soft buy signals on the stuff that I pay attention to. This candle would have been more interesting to me. This retest of the lower value zone on the daily here with a little false divergence on the MACD, and indicators consistent with price action. So higher low on price, higher low on indicator. That would have been an interesting area to buy for me personally. And of course, I have the advantage of hindsight right now that would have gone up. The question that I would ask myself, though, in reviewing this and studying this, and the question I encourage other people to ask would be, would I have stopped out on this candle? Would I have been stopped out? Would I have been fearful and gotten scared? Would I have stopped out here? Would I have stopped out here? Would I have stopped out here? Or would I have placed a stop at those lows, which, you know, if I was at here, then it wouldn't have been tested, but I would have seen my entire position evaporate back to break even. Or here, where it looks like I wouldn't have quite gotten stopped out either. You know, these are questions to ask yourself when you're trading, because things like this happen and people get stopped out, or people don't get stopped out because they're not using stops, and then they end up holding on a big drawdown, you know. Again, you can't know beforehand. Like, same thing here. You see this back to value, and then, oh, all the way down. This looks like the start of a new bearish trend right there, potentially, but then strong, you know, bounce from that point. This is why you can't just look at one time frame. Like, you're going to get some good signals, some false signals. It's good to compare two different time frames, because if I compare these two time frames, I would have seen that at this point, even though on the daily it looks like we might be switching to a bearish trend on the daily, the weekly was still strongly bullish at that point, and this was a good return to value and a good place to look for buying potential and signals to buy. The signal to buy, you know, probably wouldn't have come until up here somewhere, though, because honestly, I'm like looking around, I see nothing on this time frame that would encourage me to have bought at this moment. You're not going to catch bottoms, you're not going to catch tops. It's just unreasonable to assume that you always will or ever will. Look to catch, you know, some amount of the movement. And if you're trading personally from home, I encourage you to develop a system for grading yourself and managing yourself in trades. All right. So, yeah, mentioned I expect kind of to see some breakout, but I'm kind of expecting it to be a false upside break where some divergence develops. It looks to me like we're about to get divergence on the MACD. We've already potentially got some divergence here on the force, which is momentum and volume. The one thing that there's no divergence on yet is the OBV, and it is a leading indicator, like I said, so that's why I am expecting more upside, but divergence and then consolidation or a return back to these levels shortly thereafter. Same thing with the RSI. So expect to see, you know, $38 to $40, I think, on BNB coin in the near future. If price dropped back below this previous low, though, this 31.76, I would not continue to hold a large position in this coin if I was doing so. I have a position in BNB that is a long-term position that I always hold, and then I trade another portion of my position in that coin. So I currently have sold out of the trading position and am only holding my long-term position in it at this time. Let's see here. All right. Oh yeah, and I said XZC. Let's look at that one too. XZC. Probably Bittrex has the longest history, but let's just see how long it's been on Binance. Oh yeah, there's some decent price history. Okay, so let's check that out. XZC Binance. I hate how these exchanges do that. They have this crazy huge candle at the beginning of all these coins. All right, I'm going to switch this back because I don't like looking at that. I like looking at the lines for those. Great. Okay. Not a, you know, ton of price history either necessarily. This has only been around for looks like, what, November, so not quite 2 years yet. So a weekly chart has some information, but a 3-day chart will probably be better for this coin, and a daily chart. Again, always want to check altcoins out on a long-term chart and a daily chart, whether it be a 3-day or a weekly, depending on how old they are. But I only trade them strategically based on a daily chart, and I only trade them based on weekly and daily charts for the most part, with very, very few exceptions. Yeah. Okay, so wow, look at that volatility. Yikes. This is a crazy pump coin. Yeah, this is Zcoin. Oh yeah, I remember this coin. Yeah, a lot of people love this coin. A lot of people trade this coin, or at least say they trade it. It's probably more just like, I bought some here, I bought more here, I averaged down, I'm crying. Something like that. This is a pretty good example, though, of a potential false downside breakout. So, even though there's not a lot of history, there's technically divergence on a weekly time frame, real divergence too, on multiple indicators, with a strong bounce from the lows on increasing volume. Daily chart confirms that same thing, basically. You've got price going up, so divergent it didn't even come back down. I would still expect, I would love to see price come back down and give me real divergence on the daily, but it doesn't look like we're actually going to get that yet, so wouldn't worry too much about it. Still technically hasn't switched the EMAs, though, into a bullish market against BTC on the week. It looks like it's about to do it, though, on the 3-day. So, basically, what do we got going on here? Same idea. We had divergence here, as we can see. It didn't give a strong divergent signal, though. See, this is the thing, is that it looks pretty good, and there's definitely some significant bullish sides. For me personally, I trade using divergences, and so when I can't find a divergence, I try to force myself not to actually enter a trade. It's just a way to filter myself, because I know I'm prone to make mistakes, just like anyone is, and the more I can stop myself from experiencing fear or FOMO, the better I'm going to do in my trading. And it means I'm going to miss some stuff. Of course, you're always going to miss. You're never going to catch everything. But you have to find a way to filter yourself so that you make less bad decisions. I don't see a signal on the 3-day where I would have personally entered this, although I do see it on the weekly. I don't know if I would have trusted it on the weekly, is the only thing. I would have seen that on the weekly down here, that divergence that I mentioned. Again, I don't see it on the 3-day, at least on the MACD, which is what I typically look for my major divergences on. I could have considered this. It's just a really big distance and longer than I would typically want, but that's a divergence right there for sure. This is technically divergent all across there, but again, like, that's such a long time period, and it's not a strategic. There's nothing that could have given me a strategic entry based on that 3-day. There's just nothing there. That's the 3-day over there. So back to the right-hand side, the daily, though. Let's take a look at some stuff here. You know what? Just to make it a little bit harder on myself, I'm going to do a replay here. So let's look. Let's see what happens. All right. So, yes, I have kind of looked at this, so I've cheated already to some extent. But let's see what we learn. Okay? I'll let you know if I see anything really significant. Because I would have seen that on the week. I would have seen the divergence on the week and been like, okay, I should be looking for this. So let's look at that. Let's look at that. Oh, shoot, I just changed that. That's not what I meant to do. Ah. All right, go back to the daily here. Oh, I'm not looking. Where we want to go here, replay from here. Okay, and granted, I already know that eventually it's going to pop up, so I've already cheated. But let's look at this. Okay, let's go back to that week. All right. So I would have, I'll just, eliminate this so it's a little bit harder for me. But I would have seen divergence right there. That would have been the double close. That would have been something telling to me. And then boom. So it would have shot up there. So if I'd waited for that weekly signal, I wouldn't have even been buying until after that first bump. All right. So this week would have closed right there at 10:15. Great. So we can pretty much just move this ahead to that point. I'm not looking. Okay, so this would have been, that weekly close would have been like right around there. Great. Boom. Okay. So that's that. And then I would have been like, well, it's already bounced up, so I want to wait for it to come back on the daily. So let's see what happens. Any signal to buy. Could buy and put a stop right there, and that would not have been hit. Okay, so that's a price action though. That was not based on indicators at all. Oh wow. All right, so that would have really played out. Okay, so that's an example. Indicators were telling me very little at that point other than this. So I could have bought solely based on that weekly signal and then placed a stop at a reasonable distance. Or I could have waited for this daily to come back like it did, created this candle. This is now a bullish inside candle or whatever. I forget what people call it exactly now. I have to look it up. I don't remember everything off the top of my head. I'm not perfect. But in that situation, when you have a candle like that after a weekly buy signal, you can buy on that daily signal, and then you just put a stop at that low of that candle, or you can put it slightly below, but again, you're going to be risking slippage and things like that in that situation. So you buy on that close, so you're buying right in here basically, and then you have, let's say you don't get the best entry, so you get that. That means your risk is almost 3% on that. So you can only take a trade that allows you a 3% risk based on whatever rules you're following, and then position size based on that possible loss. More on that when the risk management video is out. But that stop would not have hit. You would have gotten in right there, and now it would be way up here. You could have even cashed out when it went above the value envelope zone right there. So, even if you were still holding, you're looking at a 46% profit off that signal alone. So that's just one example of a decent trading strategy with a little bit of risk management based on 2 time frames. But now, based on what's happening, it looks like it's in, consolidation, continued bullish trend. Expect to see it consolidate and come, bounce in these price ranges between like 1230 there and 1380. So I would expect to see it come back maybe and touch this area. 1270 might be a really nice buy. Alternatively, you could wait for another signal based on something that you're paying attention to, another inside candle like this. But overall, it kind of looks like it's into a bullish trend. If it breaks, let's see, where would I stop out of this right now? If I entered right now, just saying, it's in a bullish trend, fuck it, fear. I would want to place my stop right there personally. If it goes below there right now, the idea, I think it's, I'm just going to get a better price. But that would be a pretty significant, loss. I mean, that's a 13.5% difference between where I would want to place a stop right now and where it is based on the daily time frame. So you could not have a full-size position. If you're following real risk management and you're risking at most, depends on what you do, standard is 2 or 3% per trade. So say you're risking 3% per trade, you need to have a position size where a 13.5% drop would only lose you 3% of your total account value. And again, I can't tell you what that is because that's based on your own account value and everything else. So that's something to consider with something like this. I don't feel like we've missed this movement yet. I feel like with a false downside break like this, we're going to get an obvious new low at some point on a weekly time frame, hopefully above this 1209 level, which was the previous low. So I'd be looking for that and looking for, a divergence or a value area buy, something along that line that's going to give me, somewhere above a buy, somewhere above 1209 and maybe somewhere below current price if possible. We could see price continue up, and come back up here for a while or something like that before we get that, but I feel like we do have potential for a lot more sideways movement on this coin still over the next several months. But overall, looking good. Looking like it has reversed from its low. So if you're following dollar cost averaging or something like that, you can start buying in on dips. Yeah, this coin looks decent overall to me, for sure. XRP pumping. Oh, yeah. I haven't... let's look at XRP again real quick. I am going to pop off here. I need to go eat. It's getting to about that time. But, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you get notified when I'm streaming, stuff like that. And when I am, help me out. Share it on Twitter, stuff like that. I'll get some of you guys on here at some point. We'll have some fun. We'll have a good time. As always, Bitcoin Masons, we make free content. We don't want you to have to pay for calls and stuff like that. We want to help you all learn. And we all do things a little bit differently, Again, there's no one right way to do things. There's just definitely a wrong way. And if you're losing money, a lot of it constantly, then you're doing the wrong thing. It's very obvious. All right, so let's look at XRP. I like doing it on BTC right now just because that's what I'm trading it against. So we've got a daily here. We've got a weekly. I posted a while back on XRP BTC that I was expecting it to drop down to these levels. It actually got even lower than I was expecting it to get at least down to the 54 level, but it did go even lower, obviously. So as you can see, weekly time frame, there is not the greatest divergent signal overall between those two lows. It's kind of like an equal area. What I do like is that we touched that previous low. We actually broke down below this one but stayed above that little wick on Binance at least. This is one though where it might be important to look at more than one exchange overall. So I said I was expecting it to drop down back when we were up here. I can't remember the exact number, and I was targeting this area. I did try to buy over here and I stopped out, and I tried to buy here and I stopped out. I am back in XRP in a leveraged position. We did have, so not only did we have this kind of liquidity, wick down here with a strong reaction afterwards. Plus, we've got some divergence across there. not so much there, but we did dip into a very low level on the RSI on the weekly, which potentially can signal a low. And we did have our lowest ever on the force index on the weekly on that, which is interesting to me and means that we're unlikely to see as great of force on that again soon. However, it doesn't mean that price can't retest those lows, and we could still see one more dip to like 42 on that on XRP here, especially because the OBV has come back down here and we don't have real divergence necessarily on the RSI. That's all weekly, and I do expect though a bounce back to the value area somewhere between 55 and 63 currently. By the time it actually gets there, maybe, closer to 62. Let's look at a 3-day on that one real quick. Compare that with the daily. So we had a low, we had a bounce, we had a new higher low, which everybody loves, but then we came back down to that level, broke below it. The thing I like about this, though, is that there was a strong reaction from it, so it looks like a stop hunt because everybody is placing stops at or below that level once this low was reached. So I really like that candle. I really like that kind of pattern. That is a type of false downside breakout pattern. I want to see that pattern, though, confirmed on indicators, and I don't really see a lot of that right now, which I don't love. It's not a deal breaker necessarily, but it means that now I have a stop at that previous level. Once we've breached it, price is unlikely to come back to this level if the idea is valid. Now that we have this new close, though, it's probably better to place my stop at this low since it is slightly lower, because then we could see it dip just right back for an equal low before bouncing, protecting that level. That seems like a high likelihood scenario to me. But it could just not come back there. It could just not let us get another chance to buy at that level and start bouncing from here. I do think that XRP is due, for some good bullish movement, because it's one of those things that always pumps like crazy, and you can see it doesn't leave much time for anybody to join the party once it starts. It just really goes hard whenever it does. Funny thing is about it, this is why I said with, these altcoins, shitcoins, whatever you want to call them, it's not really worth holding because the majority of the time, the vast majority of the weeks of its existence, XRP is in a downtrend. It is the minority of the time where it's actually gaining value. Look for trades, not for holds on these things. And I am in a trade right now based on some signals that I have on XRP. I don't want to share all those things with you because I don't necessarily want to give you all of my edges and strategies. Partially because I hope you develop your own. So that's long term, that's part of the whole point. But this is one thing, like I told you, that I do look for here. And then I love this right now on XRP. I love seeing that, just confirming these new higher lows potentially. Dipped below. I want to see this start to give me a little bit more strength soon. But we did have a strong reaction, obviously, from that level. No real divergence or anything like that per se. This is just based on other signals. I don't love where the price is right now. I really want to see that price break back above the 5,000 level. This was not a good breakdown in my opinion, but I do like this rejection of the low that we had. So keep an eye on this one, certainly. And on a shorter time frame, you do see how we got a low here and then a new higher low. Same thing on the price action. So price and indicator are in sync in that case, which is a good sign for some continued upward movement, at least short term, on that guy. All right, I'm gonna go and do some other stuff. Thank you for joining the stream. Like I said, subscribe, click the notification. Most of you guys, I think, are in Discord hanging out. And we'll be doing more of these. You'll see Nick and I doing more of this stuff, and a bunch of the other people as well. Please feel free, if there are any issues with the stream, to let me know. I'm trying to increase the quality and trying to, just make things a little bit easier to see and stuff like that. We will be doing some more intricate stuff, and we will be doing probably some lower time frame stuff at some point as well. But most of the lower time frame stuff is only going to be on leveraged, things that have leverage available for day trading and things like that. And not shit coins, not super illiquid coins and things like that. Most of those you just want to stick to 1 day and weekly or 3-day time frames if you can't get anything else. So thank you so much for being part of the stream. Yeah, this was the first kind of official stream of the new channel. All right, have fun, and don't lose all your money. Yeah, it's always good. Later.